that across all these comments, people are saying it's the clutter. It's the clutter that drives me nuts.
Hi, I'm Professor Leah Ruppanner. As a sociologist, I've made it my life's mission to take down every ridiculous gender myth out there. Like, do pretty people get paid more, or are women better multitaskers? This is Misperceived.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Misperceived. On today's episode, I'm going to talk to you about something that came through so clearly on my socials. So for those of you who aren't following me, I'm at prof.leah.ruppanner, 2 P's, 2 N's, very hard last name. And on my Instagram, I asked this question, right? I was in this conversation with some of the content creators who are making content talking about the mental load. And I was like, what is kind of the one question you want to ask? Or what's the thing that keeps coming up around this domestic division of labor that is like really getting your people angry or upset or having feelings, right? That it seems like this sticking point. And one of the things that, and we can do a research project around it, right? Which seems really neat because we can start to see where is the collective frustration, and then we can start to figure out what it looks like. And so I put this post up on Instagram and I asked people like, hey, what is the thing that you hold higher standards to in your household than anyone else? What is it where like you want it done to a certain level, but other people just don't hold that standard? And it got 26,000 views and over, about 200 comments. So I want to share back with you right now what I heard, in part because I'm hoping you can help me figure out this puzzle as I start to do this research project on it. The thing that came through so clearly is people were pretty much feeling like there were 3 things that were frustrating them. One was that, actually 4. Let me give you the 4 across the research. I'm going to talk about 1. Across all of the comments, here's kind of like the 4 things that people talked about. One was that there were unfinished tasks, that there's something in the house that is sitting there that is unfinished, that just like you can see it. Like you've asked someone to do something or, you've asked someone to do something and they won't do it. They haven't done it and it's sitting there unfinished. The second is that the house is just dirty. Like your house is dirty, or you have a dog that leaves a lot of fur, or there's just like something about I'll say carpets are sticky, but that's wrong. The counters are sticky, and there's just something that is like just really irritates you and it makes you feel frustrated because it's dirty. The third is that there's low quality tasks. You ask someone to do something and they've done it poorly, like they have food still stuck on the dishes, or they've done it in a way that is not up to standard, that requires it to be redone. And the fourth, which I want to talk to you about today, that came through like across almost all of them, is this idea that there's just clutter everywhere, that there are piles everywhere, that there is stuff that might be organized but remains there and is undone. So if we go into the clutter, like if we go into the academic research, which I'm an expert, we don't really talk about clutter. Like we talk about, do people do the dishes? Do people do the laundry? Do people go grocery shopping? Do they do the small repairs? We talk about like the tasks around the house. Do they pay the bills? Like who's doing that work? How much time does it take? How does it get allocated? And we know from the research that, women do more of that kind of core stuff, that stuff that's like every single day cannot be delayed. Men do more of the episodic stuff. And then my research with Anna Catalano Week shows that the mental load of that kind of tracks, that women do more not only of the core domestic household labor, but they then also hold the core mental load. So this is moving together. But we don't investigate this kind of unfinished, undone work, this piles, this thing like you have a stack of stuff, or you have things that are sitting in piles for someone to go through and do. So I want to ask you, does this exist in your house? And if so, how does it make you feel? Like, why is this such a problem? Like, why is it that across all these comments, people are saying it's the clutter? It's the clutter that drives me nuts. And I'll tell you what I heard in that, and then I want to give like some kind of my thoughts on it. What I heard people say was like, the clutter drives me nuts in part because it reminds me that things are undone. It's reminding me, well, okay, sorry, I'll go back. I'll take one step back. The first thing that they were saying is like, who's responsible for it? There's a pile of stuff that's been organized in one direction. It's clutter and it needs to be gone through, but who is responsible for it? And they would talk about in the comments, like, people just walk over it. Like, it drives me nuts. So we all just ignore that clutter. Does this happen to you? Do you have like piles of clutter or piles of things that just sit in your house? You know, someone has to go through it. Everyone's ignoring it as if it does not exist. And it sits there for months, weeks, years. And you know that someone has to do it, but it's almost like a stalemate. It's almost like a game of chicken of like, who is going to do this? And so I think part of it is who is responsible for that, that we can do the organizational work, we can do the tidying work, but who has to do that work of figuring out what within those piles needs to be gotten rid of, what's emotionally sensitive, what do you want to hold on to, what are kind of, are people going to be upset if you throw it away? One woman said, like, my husband throws everything away. His solution to the clutter and the piles is he throws it away, but often we have to come back in and we need it later on. And so I think one of the challenges with these clutters is that it's both like we've never negotiated who's responsible for which pile of what and who has to make sure that that pile of what gets done. And we also, it requires thinking work. You can't just, it ends up in a pile of clutter in part because you can't just like throw it in the bin. You can't just throw it in the trash. You actually have to think through where it should go, what should happen to it, and who's what you're going to keep and what you're going to get rid of. So I think there's like a relationship piece of negotiation. I'm going to give you a solution on this, right? Is like you have clutters or piles everywhere. And it's like an inefficiency in your household system where you don't know who is responsible for it. That needs to be fixed, right? If you want the piles and the clutter to disappear, then you need someone to be allocated that responsibility. That probably should be negotiated and rotated. And sometimes maybe you have the kids who are responsible for it too. Second is that it's kind of nebulous. It's like this gray space. It just exists as this thinking work that someone needs to do that maybe feels a little bit harder than just dusting. It's a little bit more mentally challenging. It's a little bit more of mental load time. And so you probably need a deadline. You probably actually need structure in the way in which you might have for a big work project or a deadline for school starting of like, that pile of clutter needs to be obliterated, integrated, operationalized in 1 week. Like you set a time frame, you set a time, because otherwise what happens is that becomes something that is just gray and dead space that sits and probably irritates you all the time. Maybe you have a pile clutter getting rid of day where every once a month on a Sunday, everyone in the family tackles their own clutter/piles. And maybe you also have the integrated part of like, then we're going to take that to the whatever, the dump, the Goodwill, the salvos to get rid of it. And then maybe have a reward at the end. I think for many people, it feels like work that you don't want to do. Some of it is challenging stuff. It's emotionally heavy stuff, like maybe getting rid of some of your childhood things or things that once were valuable to you, but now no longer are. And so maybe if you can have a mentality switch on that to make sure that those days where you do it, you have a beautiful reward at the end. You go and do something together as a family, and then you reward yourself with fill in the blank, whatever it is you love to do after doing that daily work, a movie night or a baking cookies or something kind of fun. And then the third piece I think that's coming up is like, it takes an emotional toll. So a lot of people would talk about like, I see that there and it's stressing me out. I see that there and I wonder what this is about. I'm hoping you can help me unpack this. Like if you see the piles of clutter or you see the piles of stuff there, one person said like, my wife and I walk over it. Like I walk over it and she walks over it. And when she walks by the clutter, I think, oh, okay, we're ignoring this now. It's not the priority. But what she's probably thinking is, what a jerk. He's always walking over the clutter. And here's where you have the allocation of labor, right? This is going to start to create some relationship conflict. It's because you don't know who's responsible for this. If he's walking by it and thinking, oh, she doesn't think this is our priority right now. And while he's walking by it, ignoring it, she's thinking, well, he's such a jerk. He's going to walk by that for the 800th time. You have slippage in who's responsible for that labor. He's making her responsible for it. But what I want to know from you all, if you can, is what does it make you feel, right? Like, well, first is, do you think I have this right? Do you think it is missing an allocation of the labor who's responsible for it? Do you think it's also because it's emotionally and cognitively difficult to do the work? And then do you think it also is because it's this kind of gray area? And then I want to know, how does it make you feel? People talked about, it makes me feel stressed about it. It makes me feel like people might judge me. But they also talked about like, it feels uncomfortable having people over when there's so much mess. And when I look at that mess, I start to think about all the things that need to be done, and or it makes it difficult later on to find things for the family. Like the mess and the disorganization and the things everywhere, plus the clutter everywhere, means that when we try to get things done, when we try to execute as a family, I actually find it more difficult during the day. Like I can't get the kids out of the house quickly. I can't find the things I need to find when I'm trying to cook meals. I don't know where things are. And so it actually like pulls down your ability to be efficient at home. And so I'm curious to you if you could help me understand what is disentangled within this. Is it like Darby Saxby's work where you walk by it, you see the mess and it increases your cortisol levels, like you feel stressed about it? Is it actually because you see the clutter and the piles and you start to think, oh, this is going to be a problem for me later on? Does it feel like it's disrespect? Does it feel like people are going to judge you? Do you feel like it's going to make it difficult for you to relax? Does it feel like you're a personal failure? Like, oh man, I can't even do that right. It's like it's kind of like reminding you all the things that actually you have not done. And therefore it feels like this never ending to-do list and a way in which you can't get on top of things. Is that the reminder of it? If that is it, I think getting clear on what are your priorities and your strategies will help you to decide whether that clutter actually is important. The piles matter. This is in part what I ask you to do in my book, Drained, Reduce Your Mental Load to Do Less and Be More, where I ask you to get clear on your goals, get clear on your where you want to move in the world, and then figure out where the clutter and the piles fit into that. And do you need organizational systems? Like, is this a system issue? I want to know what you think about this because it was very clear that this was triggering for so many people. It's just the constant piles and clutter that exist in their house that it seems like no one else can see or no one else cares about. And I want to know why. Why is that difficult for you? Is it the combination of feeling like your voice is not respected? Is it the mental load energy that goes into it? Is it the fact that it creates inefficiencies? Or is it just all of the above? I want to give another asterisk that came in that keeps coming in across all the conversations I'm having and the research I'm having. People will talk about if they're neurodiverse or if they have ADHD, that actually two things happen. One is that they create clutter. They create projects that go unfinished, right? And those sit in the house, that there is a constant doing without a constant completing. And therefore, the house is full of unfinished projects that make them feel overwhelmed and stressed. B, I hear a lot too of like, if my systems aren't there, that actually what this does for me is for my brain, I need organization is difficult. And so I need systems that work. I had a great conversation with a woman who talks directly about this on Instagram. And she was saying like, hey, actually, this is difficult for me because I need a system, but sometimes then my brain gets sick of the system, right? Because I have ADHD and I want to be able to shift my systems. So I hear a lot from people about I need a system because otherwise I burn through so much energy trying to think about, organize, and coordinate. And that actually becomes more challenging for me. So I want to understand from your perspective, what is it about these piles that is the most activating? Or is it just the combination of all of it? And what has worked for you? Are there solutions that work for you that seem to help support it? Is it just creating a pile room? I'm joking about that. Is it just creating a pile, you can close the door. But what works for you? Is it reducing your standards? Is it caring less? Is it getting a full set system in the household? Is it, having clear organizational practices? What would help? And for you, is it the piles and the piles and the piles that just activates your feelings of overwhelm? And sorry, last one. If you're a man listening to this, do you feel the same way? Because what happens is I hear a lot from women, right? If you're a man or a dad do you feel the same way? Like, do the piles drive you nuts too? Do they make you stressed? What does that look like for you? if you could go to @Prof.Leah.Ruppanner and share into that thread, send me an email, connect to me on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, wherever. I just want to know what you think. What do you think? What does it feel like for you? Let me know. It's for research, y'all, and I'll report back the research back to you. I got you. As per always, thank you for listening to Misperceived, where you don't need a PhD, you just get to come hang out with me. And also,
we are
your piles are probably
and
draining your mental
grateful
load.
that this series is being supported by the
Bye. I
Melbourne
love you. Have a
Public
great week.
Humanities Initiative at the University of Melbourne.